What are some psychological life hacks you can do to give you an advantage in situations? If you ask someone a question and they only partially answer, just wait. If you stay silent and keep eye contact, they will usually continue talking. I have to agree that silence is an extraordinarily underutilized conversation tool. Most people just wait their turn to speak without listening or try to fill the gaps of silence without having a point. If you get yourself to be really happy and excited to see other people, they will react the same to you. It doesn't always happen the first time, but it will definitely happen next time. The man's best friend effect. When you first meet people, try to notice their eye color while also smiling at them. It might be because you look for a second or two longer, but all I can tell you is that people really respond to it. People have a certain image of themselves and will fight tooth and nail to cling to it. Use this information wisely. Don't get physically pissed off at inanimate objects. The best one I ever heard was, apparently, if you have a warm hand when you shake somebody's hand, you immediately become a more desirable person to get along with. Always be honest, so when you have to lie, people will believe you. After a person breaks up with someone, they are at their most vulnerable state for manipulation because of the flood of emotion. This could be used for the good or evil purposes. People will remember not what you said, but how you made them feel. Also, most people like talking about themselves, so ask lots of questions about them. When you're studying or learning something new, teach a friend how about it. Let them ask questions. If you're able to teach something well, you understand it. Refer to people you've just met by their name. People loving being referred to by their name, and it will establish a sense of trust and friendship right away. Say your friend introduced you to Peter. After 5 minutes, he decides to leave. Don't just say, bye, but instead, say bye, Peter. False attribution of arousal. When you take somebody out on a first date, take them somewhere exciting that will get their heart beating. For example, roller coaster or horror film. This gets their adrenaline up. It makes them think they enjoy spending time with you rather than the activity, if they enjoy those activities. Otherwise, it makes them think that you cause nausea or nightmares. I learned this on here a few years ago. For anyone in customer service, put mirror behind you at the counter. This way, angry customers who approach you will have to see themselves in the mirror behind you, and the chances of them behaving irrationally lowers significantly. No one wants to see themselves act like a dickhead. This is one of the reasons why many bars install large mirrors behind them. The main reason is so the bartender can see who is where and if any new customers approach at all times. But there are other reasons as well. If you're ever tending a bar and a customer approaches you directly and starts getting upset or angry, just take a deep breath and step slightly to either side and lean on the bar using either your right or left elbow only. If you move your head out of the way just fast enough to break eye contact, they will be briefly forced to stare at themselves. Even if you don't move fast enough, peripheral vision always seems to notice that familiar face. Also, leaning in puts you in a position of power for quite a few reasons. Only the proudest of assholes are immune. Chew gum when you're approaching a situation that would make you nervous, like public speaking or bungee jumping. I can't remember where I heard it, but apparently, if we are eating something in our brains trip and it reasons, I would not be eating if I were danger. So I'm not in danger has helped calm me a few times. I remember the last time this thread showed up. Someone posted that if you ask someone to do you a small favor, cognitive dissonance will make them believe that because they did that favor, they therefore must like you. After all, why would they help someone they disliked? I don't have a source, unfortunately, but I believe the original comment did if anyone can find the previous thread. I think Ben Franklin said this originally, and it's right on the money. Foot in the door phenomenon. People are more likely to agree to do a task for you if you ask them to do something simpler first. Gradual commitment is a crazy thing. I've seen it happen, and there is nothing you can do. When I worked in retail, I had a tendency to get real curt with rude customers. Some of them would get even crazier, and they looked like tools. Make it a practice to get rid of filler words and phrases such as ooh, like, etc. Instead, use short pauses to gather your thoughts before speaking, though avoid Shatner-style pauses. Using filler words keys whoever you're talking to that you are thinking about what you're saying. Leaving them out makes these thinking spots less noticeable, since you aren't essentially announcing to the world that you are thinking, and makes you seem more sure of yourself. When a group of people laugh, people will instinctively look at the person they feel closest to in that group. Read, wanna know who wants to bone who? Look at who they look at when everyone laughs. The physical effects of stress increased breathing rate, heart rate mirror identically the physical affects of courage. So when you're feeling stress from any situation, immediately reframe it. Your body is getting ready to do courage. It's not feeling stress. A Navy lifer I worked with taught me the see one, do one, teach one method. The last step is the most vital step for your comprehension. If you are taught a new task at work, most people learn to do the task and then perform the task. If you find another employee to teach what you just learned, you will comprehend the concept better and retain the info for much longer. Whenever I train a new associate at work, I ask them to go show another co-worker how to do the task they just learned. Magic. Pay attention to people's feet. If you approach two people in the middle of a conversation and they only turn their torsos and not their feet, they don't want you to join in the conversation. Similarly, if you are in a conversation with a co-worker who you think is paying attention to you and their torso is turned towards you, but their feet are facing in another direction, they want the conversation to end. You should check out Carol Kinsey-Goman's research on these types of things in the workplace. If you really want something from someone, frame it as an offer rather than a request. When Teddy Roosevelt was running for president, his campaign printed out 3 million leaflets with a picture of Teddy and a copy of a campaign speech. The campaign then realized that they didn't have the rights to the photo. Instead of explaining the situation to the photographer, which would have given him leverage to ask for a lot of money, the campaign made an offer that they would use the picture, giving the photographer lots of publicity if the studio paid them $250. The studio paid the money. If you're in a group meeting and you suspect that someone in there might come after you about something, sit right next to them. They were hoping that the group would provide some sort of herd defense, but if you're right next to them, it can't be anything other than personal. This tends to make them back off, or at least substantially temper what they say. Source: had a job with a huge target painted on my back for years. In sales, though I guess it could be applied in other ways. Once you make the sales pitch, don't say anything else. My boss at an old job was training me and just giving me pointers. I was working at a gym trying to sell memberships. He told me that once I got all the small talk out of the way and presented the prices, that the first person to talk will lose. It didn't seem like a big deal, but it actually worked. Often, there were long periods of awkward silence as the person tried to come up with some excuse, but usually they bought. It was quite impressive, actually. You are in control of your emotions and thoughts. Try replacing some immediate responses. Tell yourself you're happy about something or you're excited. Eventually, your brain will end up believing it. That's the same for being down. And that's why you should never try to diagnose yourself. Saying you're depressed or have social anxiety would end up with you being more anxious and more depressed. You won't notice it at first, but over a few months it will have a pretty noticeable effect on your personality. Promise yourself you'll never talk shit about other people, even when the people around you are talking shit. Even when you agree with the shit they're saying, you don't have to make a big deal of it. Just don't partake in it. Once people get the idea, you're not into saying mean shit about other people behind their backs. The amount of shit they talk around you will decrease. It isn't fun to talk shit unless everybody's talking shit. Your decision to stop talking shit and their eventual reaction to you not reciprocating the shit talking will positively affect both of you, as well as your relationship. I don't know, for me, since I made this change in how I interact with people, the amount and quality of my friendships has grown. People will trust you more if they haven't listened to you gossip about other people. You will be seen as a more positive person than other friends who do talk shit. Just stop talking shit and be kind. The moment your alarm wakes you up, immediately react by sitting up. Pump your fists and shout yeah. Stand up straight, no slouching, hands out of pockets, and head held up high. It's not just a cliche. You literally feel better, and people around you feel more confident in you. Not always a must, but try to dress well for important occasions, including interviews. If you look good, you feel good. You will do good. In a negotiation setting, always start by anchoring, meaning start on a more radical extreme end of what you expect to get. That way, you and the other side can work to that result, rather than you locking yourself out of it. Avoid saying I think and I believe unless absolutely necessary. These are phrases that do not evoke confidence and will literally do you no good. When playing a game of cards with casual players, mutter to yourself the exact opposite of what you want to happen. So if you want your opponent to fold, then mutter, please don't fold. An overwhelming amount of times, the opponent will fall for the bait. When feeling anxious, clean up your house or apartment. You will feel happier and more accomplished than before. From an academic standpoint, This is mostly just armchair psychology, but from a real-world standpoint, these have all worked very well in my personal and professional lives. I work with mentally disabled children and have found it highly beneficial to describe their capacities in such a way that I indirectly describe their limitations, as opposed to the reverse. In real-life terms, avoid negative words when pitching something unfavorable to an audience that you want to receive it well. If you can do it in writing, all the better, because you get to pick out your words carefully. Also focus the manner by which you intend to fix things, rather than the problems. Johnny can't even speak in phrases and only turns his head to you when you say his name, but doesn't make eye contact. He won't sit in a chair for more than a minute unless you repeatedly tell him to. Nope. Try again. Johnny uses words to communicate, so the next step is to strengthen his skills up to the level of 2-word phrases. He responds to his name by turning, so we're going to work on his ability to maintain eye contact. Johnny is able to remain seated for longer than 1 minute if given repeated prompting. Which would you rather hear about your kid? This also applies to other types of work. Use it to present anything negative. Works magnificently.